Israel insists on keeping the United States in this disastrous war, knowing how much it has already damaged our military sites across the Middle East, across the Gulf. In fact, the Washington Post has a new exclusive that dives into just how extensive that damage is based on satellite imagery. Iranian airstrikes have damaged or at least destroyed at least 228 structures or pieces of equipment at US military sites across the Middle East since the war began, hitting hangars, barracks, fuel depots, aircraft, and key radar, communications, and air defense equipment. In fact, Iran was very strategic in their strikes early on in the war, going after our radar systems and essentially crippling what we had left of our depleted missile defense systems. And while CNN reported just last week that 16 US installations had been damaged, the Washington Post has learned that the situation on the ground is actually a lot worse. The review by the Post, based on images dating from the war's start through April 14th, reveals that scores of additional targets were struck at the sites. The destruction is way worse than what the White House is ever really willing to acknowledge. But unlike the indiscriminate bombings that the US and the Israelis have engaged in, along with the intentional bombings, of course, of schools and hospitals, Mark Kansian, a senior advisor with the Center for Strategic and International Studies, says that the Iranian attacks were precise. There are no random craters indicating misses. Isn't it kind of strange how the country that we're supposed to be so scared of after decades of US fear-mongering about them tends to be a lot more responsible in what they're doing? They're targeting military sites. Our government has decided to go after civilian infrastructure, schools, universities, hospitals, things like that. It's kind of gross. And it sucks that we have now undergone the Israelification of our military. I think it's sick, and it turns out that these strategic strikes that Iran had been carrying out were more effective, obviously, than indiscriminate bombings. The threat of air attacks rendered some of the US bases in the region too dangerous to staff at normal levels. And commanders moved most of the personnel from these sites out of the range of Iranian fire at the start of the war. So after Trump launched the war, he expressed absolute shock over the fact that Iran retaliated by striking US military bases in the Gulf region, which kind of gives you an idea of how ill-prepared and ill-informed our president was going into this mess. Now, experts who reviewed the Post's analysis said that the damage at these sites suggested that the US military had underestimated Iran's targeting abilities, not adapted sufficiently to modern drone warfare, and left some bases underprotected. Trump didn't expect Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz either, but he, never hesitates to take advice from the Israelis who have obviously led him astray. So in the meantime, we're stuck in a war that benefits no one other than the very people who tricked Trump into this war in the first place. And people get real upset when you say that. They think it's anti-Semitic, which I dismiss immediately. I'm not even gonna engage with that. But they think that it robs Trump of his own agency. No, it doesn't. He's a fool for trusting the Israelis. He's a fool for surrounding himself with pro-Israel individuals and never listening to anyone who might, have a different opinion about how this war should be carried out, or maybe a different opinion about whether or not this war should have been carried out in the first place. But we're stuck with this guy, and we're stuck with a crumbling global economy with no end in sight. And when Israel questions why people hate them, I love how they immediately point to anti-Semitism when in reality, the war that they've been egging on for decades is crushing people across the globe economically. I think that might have a lot more to do with the disdain that people feel toward Israel right now.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.